Aside from climate, you have also light. So light is the primary source of energy in the earth, and it drives the energy that is being produced by the sun. Provides energy to most of the producers to undergo various processes or metabolic processes in order to produce another type of energy for the level of consumers. Next, we have temperature. So, various organisms are affected, including humans, with the increase and the decrease of temperature. So, there are physiological processes also that are affected by temperature. And of course, water. Organisms, particularly the cells of the organisms, are made up 90% or 90% of water. So, water is necessary to for the different metabolic processes to undergo or to proceed. So, aside from the physical factors, you have also the chemical factors, which includes the organic and inorganic substances. So, these organic substances includes the four macromolecules. You have carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. And another one is the macro and micronutrients, which is needed by particularly plants in order for them to survive or for their growth and development. In bodies of water, one of the factors that affects the distribution of organisms includes the amount of salt, which is measured by salinity in water. Aside from the salt, you have also the amount of oxygen that is being dissolved in water. You have the dissolved oxygen, and of course, the toxic substances that may affect the growth and development of uh, organisms. So, with regards to abiotic parameters or non living components of the ecosystem, it is guided by the different concepts also. So, we have the concept of limiting factor. So, a particular abiotic factor that affects or the limit the growth and development of an organism or a population is termed as the limiting factor. So, um, the same is true with most organisms. You have limiting factors can be temperature or any of those mentioned abiotic parameters above, or it can be another organisms, particularly competing species that competes with the resources of one species to another. Okay. So another law that governs the abiotic parameters in the ecosystem is the law of the minimum. So it states that a system may be limited by the absence or minimum amount of any required factor. So as you can see in this figure, so this is the representation of the law of the minimum. So the least amount of a particular factor, pwedeng nutrient, pwedeng temperature, pwedeng light, is actually determines the growth and development of the organism. So regardless na meron kang another or ample amount of supply of other factor or the required factor for the growth and development of an organism, the minimum amount of a one factor will determine the growth and development of an organism. So kung ano yung minimum amount ng isang factor na nakaka-affect sa growth and development ng organism, yun yung magde-determine sa kanya whether it will survive or not. So, in comparison with the law of the minimum, meron ding tinatawag na Shelford's Law of Tolerance. Ibig sabihin nito, there is a particular range of tolerance or measurement of a particular factor that an organism can adapt or can tolerate. Yun ang ibig sabihin niya. So in this particular figure, you can see that this particular range of a abiotic factor, this is what we so called the optimum range. So ito yung range ng factor wherein an organism can reproduce at the same time can survive, grow, and develop. Okay. We have also carrying capacity. This is actually the number or the maximum amount of population that an ecosystem or an area can actually support. Okay, so if the population of in a particular area reaches above carrying capacity, that seems to be problematic since there will be competition with the resources available with that particular area. And then it will affect, or there will be a cascading effect on the growth and survival as well as the reproduction of the organism. So for the ecosystem function, it's just a reiteration of the different category on uh, of biotic factors of the ecosystem. So since you have the producers, their main function is production. So you have responsible for the accumulation of organic substances primarily because of the process of photosynthesis, which can you see the summary of the process. So photosynthesis are the processes which involves CO2 or carbon source, water, and of course the light energy. So it produces energy in the form of sugar, and you have also the oxygen. So plants are mainly associated with photosynthesis, but there are other organisms that can carry this process because of the presence of a green pigment called chlorophyll. So this particular pigment or the chlorophyll is responsible for the green coloration of plants and other organisms. Okay, so after production, you have also consumption. Okay, so consumption is being played by consumers. It can either be first level consumer or secondary level consumer. So, with regards to production, there's what we so called productivity. So when you say production, that is actually um, the process involved in producing energy. But when you say productivity, that is actually the amount of energy that is being produced. So there are two types of productivity. You have the gross primary productivity and you have the net primary productivity. So gross primary productivity is the overall product of photosynthesis. Okay, but then again, the plant itself or the producers itself use the energy that is produced after photosynthesis. So it is not 100% that it will yield that particular energy. So we have what we so called net primary productivity. So ibabawas mo lang yung energy na ginamit ng producers on its processes, yun na yung value ng net primary productivity. So gross primary productivity minus the energy that is being used for other processes by producers, you will get the net primary productivity.